Hello, everyone. Dr. Vicky Skirbo here, speaking to you from the Seeds of Transformation Healing Center. I want to take a look at the chart of Pope Francis, who passed away early this morning in Vatican City on Easter Monday. I think it's pretty interesting that he waited till Easter, did his last blessing to the people. Obviously, we all need blessings. Pope Francis was an interesting pope. He was very different than other popes. I believe he was the first Jesuit to be a pope, and he was the first person to take the name of Saint Francis of Assisi, which, of course, really opens my heart. I have been to Assisi, and um, it's a beautiful place, but there is a sadness in Assisi, but it's certainly kind of an open heart place. And I can't really describe it. If you go, you'll know that's the kind of energy that Assisi has. And it is absolutely beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. So let's jump into it. I just want to say that this is the type of reading that if you have a reading with me, this is the kind of information that I work with for you as a client. So just give you a sense of that. And I actually somebody this morning commented, Judy, I believe it was, what I thought about um, the Pope. And I was planning, before I read the comment, I was planning on doing this, but I had to sort of fit in my schedule. I do want to say a couple of things about the Catholic popes being Catholic. I was born Catholic. I was pretty much born into the church. Um, I was born at a Catholic hospital and spent my first 11 months of life in a Catholic orphanage, being taken care of by nuns. Um, I grew up um, Catholic. I went to 12 years of Catholic school. I taught Sunday school um, when I was in high school. And I always loved the church. I always loved being in the church. I loved the music. I loved the stained glass windows, how they would, the light would come through the windows. The parish that I grew up in had um, a mural on the ceiling of uh, of God and angels and Jesus on the cross, and and I used to sit there like this a lot of the time um, during Mass. The thing I didn't necessarily care for uh, when I was pretty deep into my religion was um, the way that the people in the church acted towards each other. Um, I didn't really have a problem with priests. They never really gave me a hard time. And I always, of course, I was a girl, and that was helpful in the Catholic Church. I know there were boys in my class that actually the priest beat up. They actually physically abused them. I don't know about anything else, but I know for sure they were physically abused. Um, and I never really had that experience, but I was very shy and I didn't stand out and I didn't make problems. I didn't do any of that. I was the perfect child, for the most part. The nuns always seemed, except for one nun who was mean to me once, all the nuns seemed very nice to me. And of course, they raised me for my first 11 months, which I was not aware of. I didn't actually become aware of the fact that I was adopted until I was first indicated to me when I was around my first Saturn return. I asked the family and they said no. So I just, kept it in my mind. And it wasn't until I was in my 40s that I found proof. And then I went to Catholic Charities, which is who adopted me. So, who adopted me out to my parents, who I'm very grateful for. And I have since met my mother, and she's a lovely woman. We have a lovely relationship now. Um, I know that in her situation, she couldn't have given me the things that my parents actually were able to give me. So I'm very grateful that my mother chose to have me. I'm very grateful that my parents raised me. And I am grateful to a certain extent to the Catholic Church. Uh, it's a little bit of a love-hate relationship there. One of the things that they did, and I don't know if this was specific to the Catholic Church and Catholic hospitals, but when I was born, they did not allow my mother to hold me. So um I had no bonding experience coming out of the womb. I was just like taken from my mother's body and put in a crib. And really there I stayed and didn't have a specific sort of focal mother-father energy until I was almost a year old. Um, and so that's a little bit of a stickity wicket for me. But that wasn't really the thing. Well, of course I didn't know. But the big thing about the Catholic Church, when I decided that this was not the system that I felt most comfortable in, although I felt like I belonged to there to a certain extent, right? Was when I realized, when actually I said, my mother said to me when she says, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" She said, "You want to be a nun." And she always kind of pushed that. And I said, "No, I don't want to be a nun. I want to be a priest. I want to do the mass." And my mother said, "You can't do the mass." I'm like, "What do you mean I can't do the mass?" And then I said, "Well," she said, "Talk to Father Ward." So Father Ward, nice young priest, sat me down and told me that I couldn't become a priest. And I said, "Why not?" He said, "Because you're a girl." And that didn't sit very well with me. And then later, as I got older, I realized that women really didn't have any power in the Catholic Church, although the nuns they were pretty cool. But they didn't really have power. They had to obey, I guess, you know. So it was very like male oriented. They made all the rules. Um, and so I decided, there were a couple of other things that happened that I actually sort of turned my back on the church, which was like leaving home. And it was very disorienting in the beginning, but I did find my way, and I found my way through studying women's studies, finding the goddess, becoming a witch, a pagan. Um, but and now I can just sit in myself spiritual and still seeking, still really connected to the church in a way, in the good things about the church. And one of the things that I really liked about this Pope was that he really did live, and he really seemed to take to heart the teachings of Jesus that I had never seen in any of the other popes in my lifetime. Of course, maybe John Paul the First and John the 23rd, but I was too young for John the 23rd, really. Although he I think when I was born, Pius was well, that's the one I remember, Pope Pius. And then John Paul the First, they killed him, right? Right out the gate. I think he was Pope for 2 weeks. And then John Paul the Second came in, and I kind of liked him. I liked that he was, I guess not Polish. I mean, it was seemed like the church was opening up a bit, but he was very traditional. And so I don't feel like there was very much progress with him. By the time I left the church, I think when I left the church, I think John Paul II was probably Pope, what I would consider leaving the church, right? So that's just a little history. I just kind of wanted to give you the sense of my relationship with the church as we look at this chart. So hopefully that was okay with you guys, that I would give you all that personal information. So let's take a look at the Pope. God rest his soul, really. A beautiful soul. All right. Can I find the Pope? Where's the Pope? wonder if this is the Pope. Okay, hold on one second. Let's see if I can. Nope. Hold on one second. I have to find it. All right, so I found I found Francis. One of the other things about Pope Francis that I do have to say is that my father's name was Frank, um, and he looks a lot like my dad. So I also have that connection to Pope Francis. All right, and I'll try not. I'll try to keep it together. So this is a young picture of Pope Francis. Kind of looks like a young picture of my dad. And this is his chart. He has a pretty interesting chart. He has a Cancer rising, so he is ruled by the moon, and he has his moon in Aquarius, moon in Aquarius, and Venus in Aquarius conjunct his moon in the seventh house. You know, Aquarius is humanity, so this is somebody. He's a born humanitarian. His sun is in Sagittarius. The Sagittarius, his sun's ruler is Jupiter. Jupiter in Capricorn. Jupiter is if there is a pope, uh, if there is a pope planet, it would be Jupiter. And if there was a head of something, it would be Capricorn. And so we have that conjunct his sun. He also has his sun conjunct his north node in Sagittarius in the sixth house of service. So he came in to be of service. He has his south node in the 12th house with conjunct Chiron in Gemini. This can be a wound around his ability to express himself. It could be a wound around the mind, being of two minds, as it were. But oftentimes I see people with south nodes in the 12th house coming into the sixth house as souls who are actually coming directly from spirit and like landing here uh, on planet Earth. But this guy is well is well prepared for that with Jupiter in Capricorn conjunct um, Mercury in Capricorn. And then of course this all this Aquarius energy. Of course, Saturn in a chart deals with your often will deal with your career, and he has Saturn in Pisces, which is the energy of the divine. He has a his 10th house, which is your career house, is in Taurus, so it's practical, pragmatic, down to earth, ruled by Venus, a love of humanity. He was a he's from Buenos Aires. He was born in Buenos Aires, Argentina, the son of an Italian immigrant who left Italy to escape Mussolini. He married a woman whose parents were from Italy. And so he was his dad was an immigrant. His mother was, I guess, a first generation Argentinian. He grew up in Argentina. And of course, Argentina and South America is generally a little bit more socialist in its nature. So he was kind of a socialist. He's also a Jesuit. The Jesuits are considered, the soldiers of Christ. Jesuits tended to be more progressive, more politically, I think, aligned with a socialism. With socialism, well, I think Catholicism at its heart is about, well, at least for me, it's been taking care of the least of us. I mean, there's a lot of issues around the Catholic Church, certainly, but I think that, well, at least from my perspective, it is a religion that cares for the poor, and certainly it cared for my mother, who was a poor young girl with no family to really to help her, really, to speak of. So, of course, again, there's always two sides to everything. But he does have Uranus in that house, and so he would be, and of course, he's a, Uranus, the 10th house is sort of the ruler, the person in charge. he would be different. He would be different with Uranus there. He has a Mars in Libra, so he tends to approach things in a very diplomatic way. He's a pretty diplomatic guy. Neptune in Virgo, pragmatic religion, I guess we could say. He has a Pluto in Cancer, of course. Most of the Pluto in Cancers are now leaving the planet, so we don't have a lot of Pluto in Cancers anymore. In that first house, um, and then his polarity point of Pluto in his seventh house in the sign of Capricorn. Again, about being a leader and being the head of something. So he has, I mean, if there's going to be a Pope chart, this is the chart. So his chart really does indicate the potential for his popedom. All right, so let's look a little bit further. And this is when Jorge, was his name before he took Francis, became Pope. March 13th, 2013. I put a noontime chart. I did not know what time it was, but it's okay. It's close enough. So we have his chart here and then the 2013 chart. And we can see that he had Pluto, the planet of power, on his Mercury, right? His Mercury rules his south node in that 12th house. As I said, I feel like he came in with this straight, really kind of directly from spirit. We had Venus and Chiron. Actually, if we were to add these together, this is Chiron Venus midpoints is right on his Saturn. Let's see, what else, what else, what else? There's a couple of other things. Black Moon Lilith right on his Chiron. So I feel like he was grateful for it, but there was a part of him, and I think I did watch that movie with um, the Two Pope movie. If you haven't seen it, now I'm going to call it the Two Pope movie. I'm not sure if that's the name of the movie, but he was played by the guy who was in um Game of Thrones, the religious guy that was in the Game of Thrones, and Pope Benedict was played by Hannibal Lecter. But they're all such great actors. Like it's funny that Hannibal Lecter and the guy who is kind of like the evil dude that played the religious guy in Game of Thrones ended up playing the popes. It's a great movie. It gives you a lot of insight. And it gives you a lot of insight into his life because he was very politically active, and it was a very difficult time to be politically active in Argentina. And I believe, and I'm vaguely remembering this. I did not do the research on this, and I apologize because I kind of know the story, but I don't know the specifics. Um, I think he felt responsible. I think a couple of people were killed or died, political things, and I think he felt a little responsible for that. So when we get to his numbers, you might understand that a little bit better. Okay, so what else? What else? There was one other thing I saw in this chart that I wanted to mention. Well, we have, oh, okay, the North Node, the transiting North Node trining his Saturn. And okay, that's enough. You guys can look at it and if you see other things. All right, so let's take a look at his numerology. So he was born Jorge Mario Bergoglio. And when we add his vibration, his vowels, we get two vibrations. We get an 11 and we get a 53-8. Now, the 11 is the Justice card. It is a master number. I'm not surprised that he has a master number, master spiritual teacher in his soul. But he also has the Knight of Swords, and the Knight of Swords is the fighter, right? This is somebody who raises the sword and goes into battle on what he understands to be right. Okay. Now, this can be a problematic energy for people, because these people tend to, fools rush in where angels dare to tread kind of energy. And they tend to take on a lot of karma when they get involved with things if they don't think it out. But the fact that it's a soul vibration, and your soul vibration is the thing that you need to stay in good relationship with, you understand what what it is that you need to concentrate on for to a certain extent. This is located, the Knight of Swords is located on the Tree of Life in a place called Tippereth. Tippereth is connected with the heart chakra. It's this yellow chakra right here. And it's the place, the yellow Sephiroth, and it's the place of the Christ consciousness. People who have vibrations in Tippereth generally are very community oriented. They feel very responsible. And of course, 8 is a responsible and a karmic number. He actually has 8 on the intuitive plane and 8 as a karma number. So he came in. This was a karmic thing for him. I think he made the decision to come in to this life and do this work. His outer personality, his consonants, which is how people experience him, is the Four of Swords. The Four of Swords is somebody who's a little bit more isolated. He was not the uh, spangle bangle, uh, gold gilded Pope. He actually didn't want to wear all that stuff. He liked to wear that white tunic that he wore. He didn't want to live in the palace. He lived in an apartment. He was very humble. He was a very humble guy. He was a socialist at heart. He was very much helping the poor. He lived like Christ. He was the most Christ-like in my estimation. And he did do a lot of progressive things, although there were certain things that he didn't get very far with. Uh, I felt I actually did a card reading on him many years ago, and I almost felt like it was sacrilege to do a tarot card reading on the Pope, and then I got over myself. Well, my Catholic came up a little bit, and I just poofed it away. And what came up was that there were a lot of people who didn't like him there because they were the sort of Opus Dei kind of Catholics, right? And of course, the Catholic Church in America has a little, with all these Catholic Supreme Court people, and all this Opus Dei mumbo jumbo, Leonard Leo crap, um, is he actually said that he believes, I believe I heard this, that the American Catholic Church is on the wrong path. And I know that right before he passed away, he did have an audience with J.D. Vance, who just recently converted to Catholicism. They said that he snubbed him originally, but then he agreed to see him. And he did say that he wasn't, the way they were treating migrants wasn't Christ-like. And he's never been a proponent of Donald Trump, and never, and always he spoke when he felt like there was some sort of moral issue. And of course, Donald Trump is a moral issue. So, but people are saying that that J.D. Vance killed him. I think he was just ill. He's been ill for a while. And I was having this discussion. I'm sorry, I have an itchy eye. I was having this discussion with Ona a couple months ago. We were looking at the Pope, and she's like, "Oh, I don't think he's going to make it." I said, "I think he's going to make it to Easter." And I just thought that because it seemed like the thing he would do. Like he wouldn't leave before that. All right, so that outer personality, the four, is somebody who, well, it's the Four of Swords, it's a Libra energy, so doesn't do anything until he thinks about it, um, and needs that sort of isolation to help him to navigate this. Now, when we add everything together and get his expression, we get a 12-3 hanged man vibration. And this is somebody who's willing to make a sacrifice. Um, and somebody who is always connected to cosmic consciousness, but doesn't have a lot of latitude. Like it's almost like there's not much you can do, but stay connected. It's interesting because Bernie Sanders has this as his soul vibration, right? And he's somebody who is pretty much stayed connected to his vision and his understanding, but he hasn't had a lot of opportunity to actually act, right? So that is often seen in when this is one of your major numbers. His path of life is a 48 over 3, the 8 of Cups, walking away from that which doesn't spiritually fulfill you. It's interesting because he actually became Pope because Benedict retired, and popes never retire. I think that was some of the consternation around him taking the job. Benedict wanted him to take the job. And of course, Benedict was inundated with the sexual abuse scandal. And many people feel like he didn't do what he should have done with that. And was sort of put on Jorge, on Pope Francis's back. And I think he did a decent job. I don't think he did a full job, but again, I think he's always had the more traditional Catholics. I was going to say up his butt, but down his back. I just think that there were certain things that maybe he wanted to do that he couldn't do. Um, so he was an innovator. He did things differently, but I think in the end, um, I think he did what he could. Now his shadow, which we take his first name Jorge, which vibrates to a 1. So all you Jorges out there, you're kind of uh, pioneers, as it were. And we add his day of birth, which is the 17th, and we get a 45-9. The 5 of Cups. This is about mourning your losses, but taking what's left, moving on over the bridge and moving on. So this is connected to Mars in the chart. We'll look at that. And it's located in a place on the tree of life called Gabura. And when you have your shadow in Gabura, it is possible that there has been abuse of power in the past, and you have come into to for recompense on that. So I've never done a past life reading on him or anything, or a meditation or anything, or card reading, so I'm not sure. But he certainly came in to heal his voice, and he does have Chiron conjunct his South Node in Gemini, which can be your voice. It's very possible even that he did speak up in a previous lifetime and it cost him his life, and he didn't get to do what he wanted to do. So he had to wait for another lifetime. That's a possibility as well. And when we look at his divine triangle, we look at his youth square, his first 27 years of life. 55-1 is located in Kether on the tree of life, or the crown chakra. It is the crown. Kether means crown. It's connected to Neptune and Pluto, outer planets that deal with the evolution of the culture, so to speak, and evolution of the soul. And the Ace of Swords is about what is true and what is just. So he came in with the sword, right? And he has his soul with the sword, and he has his quiescent of the sword. So all these swords are mentally oriented. Okay. And then his second 27 years of life, which is how he overcomes challenges of his youth, was a 42-6. This is the 2 of Cups. This is about love. So his power is the power of love, but it's in Hokmah. Hokmah is connected to Uranus. Uranus in Taurus in the 10th house. He was going to change things. That was also part of his power. His wisdom square, 47-11. This wisdom square ended at 88. That was 7 years ago for him. And it's the 47-11, which is the 7 of Cups. The 7 of Cups these are the 7 deadly sins. And the lesson here is your desire to aspire to your higher self. And that was the wisdom. How do you overcome the personality? And now that he is 88, he was actually on this line. This line goes from 81 to 99. And so he made it 7 years on this line, 18-9, which is the moon card. So this is where he stays. Now, I want to point out a few other interesting numerological things. He became the Pope in, let's see, where is it? Named Pope 3/13/2023. So that was March of did I say 23? March of 2013. He was in a personal year vibration of a 34/7, which is the Eight of Wands, things happening very quickly, maybe unexpectedly. And that was actually the name Francis vibrates to a 34/7. And the day he died, today, vibrates to a 34/7. So we have that 34/7 energy here. He was named Pope on a Fool Day, 22/4, Master Spiritual Builder Day, also taking the leap of faith. And that was literally what he did. He took a leap of faith. And then he passed away, as I said, today, and he was in a 37/1 year vibration, the King of Cups, and he passed in an 11 vibration. He has a lot of 11s in his chart. He has the 11 that's located in his soul. He has the 11 in his wisdom. He passed away in an 11 subperiod. Um, and in his pinnacles here, which I'm not going to get into, his first, let's see, from his birth to age 33, he was in an 11, a 29/11. And then from 33 to 42, he was in a 10 of Wands energy, 36/9. This is about compassion, forgiveness. And then he went into another 11, the 65/11, which is the King of Pentacles. And then his last pinnacle, 31/4, which is interesting because this is a vibration often seen in sexual abuse. And so he had to deal with that. He had to deal with the issue of sexual abuse as Pope of the Catholic Church. All right, so let's take a look at his passing. So here again, we have Francis, and this is when he passed away. And a couple of really interesting things. He had, at the day that he passed, Moon Pluto conjunction. This is usually seen at the end of something. Jupiter on his Chiron. Jupiter is the most active planet in a death chart for the person who dies, usually. And it's freedom from the mortal coil. And in a way, with Jupiter on his Chiron, he did his work. He healed his wound. We also have, let's see, Saturn, on the day that he died, Saturn conjunct the North Node in Pisces with Venus in Pisces, all this compassion energy moving through his 8th house. And it moves backwards, so it just moved into his 8th house. The North Node just moved into his 8th house. I use Porphyry system in case you're wondering. Oh no, this is Placidus. Actually, I usually use Porphyry. Okay, well, according to Placidus, it moved into his 8th house of death. Pluto and of course the moon close to his Venus, Mars on his Pluto, Saturn, South, or the nodes, but the South node especially, I think, or often, or when the nodes get activated, exit points. The other interesting thing is that the nodes of the moon are actually square his nodes. And I see, I see enough people and I look at enough death charts really to see certain patterns. And usually there's either something with the nodes. The nodes are the direction of our destiny. And when the nodes are square, the nodes, like with his chart, at the time of his death, he was at a crossroads and he left. And we're all better for it. He really was a beautiful soul. All right, so that's what I see. I wanted to share that with you guys. The church is a better place because of him. I don't know what's going to happen, and I don't know who's going to get in. I haven't looked And I'm not really into being Catholic anymore. So, but I almost reconsidered. Like I didn't actually like go to church or anything, but I was proud that such a beautiful soul got to be the head of a church that needed the healing. That needed the healing because I think there are a lot of really good people out there. Um, I in any of the churches, and it's usually not the people. I really feel like he was the people's pope, just like Diana was the people's princess, right? The same kind of energy. But yeah, we're gonna miss you, Francis. It's funny because I was saying to my husband how much I missed my dad. And it was like when Francis was around, it was I miss my dad physically, but of course spiritually I feel him around me all the time. But to see Francis go is it was kind of like losing my father again. But now they can hang out in heaven. I'm sure my dad wants to meet the Pope. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed this. Like and subscribe if you would. For those of you who enjoy this kind of work, I am going to be starting a introduction to the Kabbalah class. I usually start one in the fall and in the spring, and spring is here. And so I'll be doing that in May. I will make an announcement as to the exact day, but if you are interested, you can go to my website, theseedsoftransformation.com, go to the events page. Now I realize that the events page it says a different date on it, but you can click on that if you want to join the class. Um, if not, you just have to look on my list of services under classes, and it would be the introduction to the Kabbalah class. So it's really fantastic, honestly. I love teaching it, so hopefully you'll enjoy learning. Okay, guys, thanks a lot. I'll see you again soon. Namaste.